I have a lot of paperwork to do.
I'll do paperwork. I ain't got no problem with paperwork.
I don't have problem with paperwork either. I like doing it.
Would you like to write up my case file for a terrorist?
I'll do that.
It's great. There's a lot of evidence attached to it.
I'll do that as long as I don't have to book the next guy I arrest. See, if I could just arrest and somebody else books him.
126 plus 1 Scooby code for the last 38.
Oh, listen, once you do it a couple times, you'll get used to it.
Yeah, I know.
I actually have most of the frequently used PC codes memorized at this point in time. I also made a cheat sheet of sorts, time and finding PC code for the most common ones that we use. Just keep that on a little sticky note around my desk.
Yeah,
it's really.
I mean, there was a time in a place where I had all that good stuff going on, and I could be like, "Oh, you're getting, you know, DC 245 wrapped up." Give you the fucking name with it too, but not so much anymore. It'll be a little while. I'll get back into it though.
Best bit of advice I can give you is get on duty frequently, and if you get the opportunity to process somebody, take it.
Give me a rapid GT. What I'm like.
I don't know why this person didn't lose their fire permit when they had a gun registered to someone else on their person when they had their own firearm permit.
They should have. It depends on what charge you get, I guess.
They were selling drugs.
Oh, well, if they're a felon, they should lose their weapons license.
They had their firearm permit. They had a valid firearm permit, and they had someone else's firearm registered on their person.
There goes Chewy with that illegal window tint.
What's a gateway crime?
Hey there, officers.
Hello.
Shots fired.
Hey, so Miss Price, do you want to speak to me,
this,
or are you here for other
alleyway
issues?
behind
Oh, it's here to speak with you, sir.
Okay. Would you like to do it here, or would you
plus
want
1
me to
77.
come somewhere else? I don't mind.
Inside would be ideal.
Let's go in so we don't get kidnapped.
Oh, is there a big kidnapping risk right now?
Well, currently there's a terrorist, so, you know, attempting to kidnap me.
It wasn't a question, it was more of...
Found some weed plants.
If he gets kidnapped, that's on him.
Oh, well, true. I'll probably get kidnapped. Right. I really can't see you. I wish I had that camouflage, then I wouldn't get kidnapped.
Oh, you can't see me?
Oh, there we go, there we go.
78th and Mirror Parkway.
Aim at 4 is going to be 10-6 off comms.
What's that?
That right BMW that was out there will snatch you up in a hurry.
I just wanted to ask again about your attack on your person.
Which one?
Well, kind of about both of them. The first one, if I could have access to your medical report, well, for both of them, access to your medical reports for those both would be very useful to my case file.
Yeah, I'm gonna give you the right to access my medical records. Yes, on those 2 occasions.
Okay. The other thing I wanted to ask, you had given me a statement regarding the second one. I really gotta figure out where that is on there, but in all of my footage, I'll find it. I'm very good at that. But you had mentioned a nice Canadian lady, you know, had taken you while you were in that state, and then you had been attacked before. Did you recognize at all the individual when she took you the second time?
I must say I still really struggle to remember anything from that 48-hour period. Things are coming back very fuzzy and slowly, but I will say I do something about her was familiar. It was definitely a woman I remember. I can't put my finger on it, but something about her was familiar.
Something about her was familiar.
And the more you've been talking about, I remember you mentioning that you had a person in mind. If you do ever manage to get that individual, I'm happy to come down and have a look, see if there's anything there that jogs my memory. But something about the voice distinct. I can't really remember anything about what they were wearing. The second time this is. The first time I can remember.
Okay, so you do recall the first time.
Yes.
Did you notice any similarities, perhaps, between the first and second time? Do you feel like maybe they were related, or you just can't tell?
Well, again, most of what I've heard about the second time has come from yourself and other officers because I really don't remember much of the incident. But I mean, the attacks seem very similar to me from what I've heard, and obviously my injuries were very similar. Um, I'm I'm still not 100% sure. Again, I really can't remember the moment of attack for either. Um, but the second one, I don't really remember leading up. I very vaguely remember getting in a car. I very vaguely remember the car being a red vehicle, with a maple leaf on top. But I'm not a. Other beyond that, I'm struggling to remember much about the second attack.
And what about the first attack?
So the first attack, I'll kind of go through it again, just to see if there's anything I remember now that I don't before. So it was following the arraignment of Bandana, which was following the trial that we'd had down here. And I headed down to the city because somebody had tweeted, and I distinctly remember the tweets. They were from an individual called Danny Boy, which I'd never noticed that Twitter account before or anything along those lines. So they just said they need to speak to a judge. I said to be down shortly. I arrived. There's no one here. Wait a few minutes. And then an individual appears. I think at the time I said he was wearing black, but thinking back, I think he was wearing blue. I think he was wearing Crip colors.
Well, I thought that was the case.
But beyond that, again, I don't remember a huge amount. He, after a very short back and forth, he ended up taking me at gunpoint, tying me up, throwing me in the trunk. And he said very little to me on the drive, which seemed quite long. It was probably a 5-minute drive. But
could you recall if he was talking to anybody on the radio or anything that he might have said?
He did, yes. At one point during it, he said, "I've got him. I'm bringing him to you." So it was quite obvious that he wasn't the individual that was trying to get me, which obviously made sense later on. But he didn't mention any names or anything along those lines. But skipping forward, the only name that was mentioned was AJ Carlisle, who she said, she was unhappy with my sentencing to AJ Carlisle. And the second name was Danny Boy. She said, "Thanks, Danny," when he dropped me off. So that to me suggests that maybe his name, or at least a name that he is known by.
Nope, I'm the.
But yeah, throughout the journey, the only thing he told me was because obviously I'd just seen the evidence in the AJ Carlisle case. I was aware that there was, that the things these people were capable of. Yeah. I said that, I didn't want a barbecue, and he told me there was going to be no barbecue. So at that time I was feeling that someone wanted to speak to me or something. I wasn't too concerned, although when I arrived that wasn't the case.
No, I'm being serious.
So yeah, when I appeared up there, which in the end was up near the Vinewood sign, although at the time I wasn't aware, I'd never been there before. I didn't really know where I was. There was a woman there with her own vehicle, a 2-door black sports vehicle. And she started speaking to me about how unhappy she was about the case and how she wanted to send a message. She mentioned your name several times about how unhappy she was with you and that she was struggling to get you, so she was having to get people around you. Yeah.
That does it for me.
And then obviously what happened. I struggle to remember exactly, but I was set ablaze. And they left the scene, I assume.
Well, let me throw my radio. What'd you say?
But from what I can see, the first incident seemed to be planned. There seemed to be a level of organization, whereas the second attack seemed to be opportunism, just because of my state of mind.
I'm the one who brings myself
But that's just the gist I'm getting from it.
Okay. And then one more question, unrelated. Okay, what do I need to do better so that I'm not letting murderers walk around the state of San Andreas?
Is this in regards to Mr. Roberts?
Oh, nobody in particular, just in general.
As far as I think you're doing a very good job. I think
it would be very useful if I were able to, get somebody's phone and see whose Twitter account was on the phone. Fortunately, that's beyond, my limitations.
Obviously, as you're aware, I wasn't the judge that was presiding over the case. Whether I would have found the same or different, I can't say. I wasn't even present in the courtroom for the majority of the evidence.
Like, I understand that it was a lot of circumstantial evidence. That's pretty much what we're limited to in the state of San Andreas, unless somebody does happen to leave DNA behind or actually confess, you know. But I feel like, given the limitations of the city, an exorbitant amount of circumstantial evidence should carry a little bit more weight, than say different states.
No, it's all good.
No, I appreciate that. Obviously, through the limitations of what we have to work with in the state.
If you got problems with yourself, it's never going to work in a relationship.
I think it would be unprofessional of me to comment on cases
no.
over by different judges. But in general, what I'd say is I believe you're doing a very good job. I believe the evidence you bring forward is very detailed at or above the level of detail that I expect to see from prosecution.
That's what I say. Because if I don't say that,
and
females get on me,
I suggest you keep going and don't let one loss hold you back. And also don't see it as a loss. I mean, the defendant was sent down for several hundred months after being held until trial for several months. So I wouldn't see it as a loss, but I would just say, everything is a learning experience, and keep bringing back that fire that you bring in the courtroom, and I think you'll get many more victories to go forward.
I know it might be time to hang up my bar card.
I don't know about that, Miss Price. I don't know whether the state's ready for
It's
that.
also my understanding that the state is trying to push for arresting officers to not be the prosecutor. And it's fine and all, but if I'm the arresting officer, I really don't know who would prosecute.
That is not something the state is trying to push. That is something that individuals are approaching the state about.
Yeah. Exactly.
I have no plans to bring that forward.
Okay, there was a concern of mine. Like I can see how there could be a conflict of interest, but at the same time, nobody knows the evidence better than myself.
Yeah, obviously bringing back the district attorney's office is partially this. It allows officers to be investigatory and the district attorney to be judiciary, right? But that's not always available, and that's not always a perfect system. And sometimes you're going to need co-counsel. Sometimes it's going to be DA working alongside arresting officers. Sometimes it's going to be just the DA. Sometimes it's going to be just the arresting officer, and sometimes it's going to be neither. There is going to be no changes in any short or medium term. I've been approached by individuals that want to do that. There's been talks about it, but it's not going to happen for now.
Oh, it's comforting. Well, I appreciate your time. I just need 2 minutes over here to make sure I save stuff.